I remembered every word, what we talked about, what was said.
When I left my house for work, it was one of the bluest skies that you could ever remember back. And what really is a stark reminder is that I don't ever remember seeing a cloud in the sky that day, just a blue sky.
I was out walking the dog. It was a beautiful day. No matter where Dan was, he was always, he stood out. He wanted to go to New York very badly, but when he told me he was in the World Trade Center, I said, Dan, I don't like that building. I had a feeling about it. And he said, Mom, there's nothing wrong with it. I said, they tried to get it once. I feel like something's going to happen. So I was very upset when he told me he was going to the World Trade Center, but that's exactly what happened. 104th floor of Tower 2.
This year being 20 years, it's just hard to realize that how much our lives have gone on. And my brothers will always remain a 29-year-old businessman.
I was out walking the dog. It was a beautiful day. And when I came in, the phone rang, and Mike said, Kitty, look, turn the TV on.
So,
that's what I saw. But Danny had called me before the phone had rung while I was out. And when I answered the phone after I saw the picture, he was telling me he was going to get out of channel. He was going to get out of the towers, and he would call me when he got out. But Mike saw the plane hit the middle of the tower, and Mike knew that Dan was gone.
my dad was in hospice, so he was living up in hospice care. We knew he was going to die. My brother called Dad at Gilchrist. He was on the phone with my father, and my father watched on live television as the plane hit his tower and they lost connection. You know, we sat by my dad's bedside for 3 days. You know, we didn't sleep, like we didn't eat, like, you know, you were still hearing stories that people were still being found, and you know, you just hoped it was, was him. We just tried to call his cell phone, and it finally, after maybe 3 or 4 days, it finally just went straight to voicemail. I know in some crazy way, like, I think that sometimes I'm going to still see him. But obviously that won't happen. But I think it's the children need to know, history and what the world was like on that day and how united we were. We still grieve, 20 years later. And there's not a day I don't think about it. And I'm for you and for my husband, and there's not a day that goes by that we don't remember 9/11. So, you just have to pick up and keep going, and I think the anniversary will be very difficult. But as long as we can, cherish the time with our family and friends, hopefully, that'll get us through. And that's what's been getting us through for the past 20 years.
It took me a very long time to get where I am today. So it's all about Romeo's story. It was 3 days before his 24th birthday. When I think about Romeo being 44, we were married September 5th. Romeo was born on the 14th the next year, and he died on the 11th. So here comes September. It's like a hurricane's coming. I have to brace myself. He never called me from his office for the few months he'd been there. But he did call me on the morning of 9/11. Don't ask me why. I remembered every word, what we talked about, what was said, and it was just like you never know it was going to be the last conversation. I was sitting in my office, and I was just opening the mail, and he called, and I was like, surprised kind of, and he told me he called his friend, and he didn't get an answer, and he called his girlfriend, and he left her a message, and then he called me. He just asked me what I was doing. I said opening the mail, office was quiet, and I asked him if he was busy, and he said no, he just came from the gym. And we talked about that, I love you, and that was it. And after New York happened, like 15 minutes later, I figured because he worked at a Pentagon communications office, he would be really busy. And then when we heard about that, of course, my reaction was normal. I just lost it, you know. And then I calmed down and everybody's calling, and a friend of ours said, your son would not walk from the Navy side of the Pentagon to where the plane hit. But I forgot that Romeo told me his office had moved. I don't know if it's a pretend that he's never coming back or it's love that keeps him around. He'll always be with us. It's hard to explain, but when you lose someone, love never dies. Romeo was my first love. The wind could probably blow the wrong way, the sky could be beautiful, and you just have a feeling, or you miss them, or something, and you would wake up at the next moment. It's sad as a parent. This is our life. This is our life. Heart and heartache for your child. I mean, and we're not the only one there. Every day, my heart goes out to everybody that loses a child, because you don't want that to happen to anyone.
My cell phone rings and I see it's my wife, and it's my wife calling, and she says, "Hey, just your dad just called, and he said he believes Joey was on one of the flights." I went quite into denial mode, and I said, "Hey, we have to move into another location. I'll call you when I can to get a better update." So I continued to work my shift that day, and then I don't know, probably about an hour or so later, I kind of got this funny feeling. And right here in the pit of your stomach, and the hair on your back of your neck stands up. Like something was missing. The guys dropped me off on the side of the road. My wife picked me up, and, we drove down to Ocean Pines to be with my mom and my dad. My role had now changed, because Joey usually made all the decisions of what we were going to do, where we were going to do, what we were going to get mom and dad for their birthdays and Christmas and Mother's Day. He was kind of the leader of the four of us, you know what I mean? Now, I inherited that role, and then the most important thing that I needed to worry about were my parents, to make sure that they could get through this. My dad passed away 6 weeks after my brother did, but he said something to me that kind of stuck with me. He says that you're almost the caretaker of the stories because you've lived it with him, so who knows him better than you? One day this is going to be history book stuff. You know what I mean? So that the story of the 40, not only Joey, but the 40 heroes of Flight 93 need to be told. And so that their memory is shared, and then it's remembered and it's cherished for generations to come. He was celebrating his birthday a day later with his wife, and made a flight on the 10th to fly out on the 11th. And you've listened to the stories of the heroes of Flight 93. A lot of them were last minute changes to be aboard that flight. Now here you are, you have 40 passengers and crew members aboard that flight that day. And it's, knowing what I know now over the years, I look back and say what the passengers and crew members did that day was amazing. I mean, in 30 minutes, which we know that from the hijacking to when Flight 93 crashed was 30 minutes. After the hijacking, the passengers and the crew members were able to, gain information. After getting over that shock of being hijacked, they put the puzzle together and figure out this plane is going to be used as a weapon. And they decided to come up with a plan. They voted on that plan. And then they put that plan in motion in 30 minutes. I've been a police officer for 33 years, and we've planned operations, and I can tell you what, in those 33 years, not one went as planned. There's always a little hiccup that comes along, and you work around it. That's what I mean. In 30 minutes, it's amazing what they did. It is probably one of the best memorials you'll come across: the Visitor Center, the Tower of Voices, and the Wall of Names. Take a ride out there and you'll see. I always look around and see who's there, you know, just the visitors that are there. And I say to myself, if I was aboard Flight 93, would I have done what they've done? And I think everybody who goes there is going to ask that question of themselves. And I believe after you go through the Visitor Center and visit the National Memorial, you're going to walk away with saying, yes, I can, I would have, and I would have given my life for someone else. And I think that's the true story of Flight 93.